The cold snap of metal cuffs echoed louder than the busy streets around them. Thomas Reed's trembling hands were forced behind his back as the officer's voice, sharp and laced with contempt, barked out his so-called rights. People watched. Some pulled out their phones, but no one stepped in. No one asked why an 82-year-old black man was being shoved into the back of a squad car like a criminal. Thomas's steady eyes stared out the window as the door slammed shut. There was no panic, no plea. Only a quiet question hung in the air. Why would an old veteran be treated like this? And why? Why did he look like he knew something no one else did? Thomas Reed had lived through battles most men couldn't bear to heed. Served in the jungles of Vietnam, carrying not just the weight of his weapon but the crushing burden of being hated by the country he risked his life for. When he came home, there were no parades, no applause, just the spray of slurs painted on his front door and the echo of insults that followed him into every store, every sidewalk. His wife, Lillian, passed 5 years ago. His only son drifted away, tired of watching his father fight battles no one else seemed to care about. Most days, Thomas spent his mornings sitting alone at Cafe Mildred, reading the newspaper from front to back, his military cap resting gently on the table, worn and faded. Just like him, he had lived quietly, carried his scars quietly. SOY today of all days. Did 2 young officers drag him out of his seat, accusing him of theft? Why did they ignore the receipt he offered? Why did they laugh when he reminded them he was a veteran? And why, despite all this, did Thomas offer no resistance? Why did he sit in the back of that police cruiser, whispering to himself, any minute now, Officer Carter and Officer Mills, names that would soon be repeated across newsrooms, drove in silence, snickering. Occasionally, as they tossed glances back at their silent passenger, to them. Thomas Reed was just another old man who didn't know when to stay in his place. They paraded him into the precinct like a prize, throwing his belongings carelessly onto the desk, his wallet, his keys, and a simple manila envelope, sealed. The desk sergeant glanced at the envelope, curiosity flickering for a second, but dismissed it. Thomas was placed into a holding cell without ceremony. No questions. No phone call, just cold metal and the lingering taste of disrespect. But the clock was ticking, and Thomas, he was watching it, with every minute that passed. His lips curved into the faintest, most unsettling smile. Any minute now, he whispered again. I in the lobby. The envelope sat unopened inside. A letter, signed, stamped, addressed to the FBI field office. Along with it, a hidden voice recorder, still running. The station's front doors burst open. Black suits. Badges. Purpose. FBI Special Agent Maria Daniels didn't ask for introductions. Where is he? She demanded, her voice cutting through the lazy chatter of the precinct. The officers exchanged confused glances, but when Carter smirked and tried to brush her off, Daniels slammed a folder onto the desk. Inside were photos, documents, audio, transcripts, names. Officer Carter's smirk faltered. His throat tightened. The envelope, the one they'd ignored, was now evidence. Evidence of months-long FBI surveillance into racially motivated misconduct within the department. And Thomas Reed? He wasn't just some elderly veteran, that he was the informant, the catalyst, the one who had courageously collected every name, every incident, every whispered slur. The FBI had been waiting for his signal. That signal was his arrest. Agent Daniels approached Thomas's cell. She didn't speak at first, just looked at him with a quiet reverence, as if she understood the weight this man had carried, alone, for years. You did good, she finally whispered, unlocking the door herself. Thomas stood, his back straight despite the pain, his eyes sharp despite his AGEAS. The stunned officers were escorted out in cuffs. Their cuffs. The entire station stood still, the weight of the reversal sinking in. Thomas Reed walked out, past Carter, past Mills, past the ones who had laughed at him, who had dragged him like he was nothing, not with vengeance, but with dignity. Because justice wasn't loud that day. It was quiet. It was in the way Thomas Reed tipped his cap to Agent Daniels. In the way the agent stood at attention as he passed. In the way the city would soon remember his name. The precinct was purged. Investigations spread. Policies changed. People finally listened. But Thomas, he went back to Cafe Mildred, back to his seat by the window. Only now, the waitress brought him his coffee on the house. The patrons nodded when he walked in, and his cap, worn and faded, sat proudly on his table. He didn't need the world to know every detail, but they knew enough. And finally, after all those years, Thomas Reed was seen, not as a problem, not as a shadow, but as a man who made them remember what courage looks like. If this story moved something in you, don't just scroll past, share it, because sometimes justice starts with the quiet bravery of one person willing to speak. Subscribe if you believe the world needs more moments like this. Be either reason someone still believes in goodness. Start today.